I never thought spying would look like this. Me, crouched behind the living room curtains, phone in hand, recording a stream of her laughs across the yard. It was a Monday evening, the sky bruised purple, and she was on Zoom again, one of her team calls, she'd said, but the windows were wide open, laughter too light, too familiar. With every beep of my unregistered recorder, my heart pounded like I was committing a crime. A month ago, I wouldn't have believed I'd be here. We'd been married for 5 years, buying a house in Pittsburgh, calling each other partner in conversation. I thought we shared everything, dreams, fears, passwords. Then came the little hints. She paused at my name on her phone. Her secretive texts on an encrypted app. I brushed them off, work stress, burnout, hormones. But the gut is honest, and mine screamed danger. So I installed cameras. In the kitchen, the hallway, by the front door. I told myself, if nothing's wrong, nothing to hide. And I believed it. Until she started spending more nights in the city, coming home at odd hours, lipstick still fresh, eyes too bright. It began with emails I intercepted, messages between her and someone named business code words, logistics. I convinced myself it was marketing talk, but then I saw the photo. A mirror selfie of them, clasped hands, smiles, the golden ring on her finger unmistakable. I replayed it a dozen times, the image burning into me, until my stomach fell. Tonight, I was watching again. The glass doors blurred her form, backlit by her phone screen. I heard laughter, his, and the way her head tipped toward him was intimate in its ease. I recorded 5 minutes. Enough to feed every doubt I'd kept locked inside me these weeks. After they walked off, the recording continued, her silhouette alone, eyes dim, shoulders tight. I heard her cry. Soft, broken sobs. That's the moment it hit me. This wasn't just betrayal. It was a fracture. A tear in our life where light got in and cut through everything. Back inside, I found her phone. She left it steaming hot on the couch. The wallpaper was a sunset, our first anniversary trip. I stared at it, wanting to smash it open, scream at it. Instead, I slid the recorder under the cushion, tapped once, twice, and listened. Messages from Mem. Saw you tonight. Felt good. Can't wait for tomorrow. My chest tightened. I wondered who knew what. Did she know I was watching? Was she whispering secrets into a phone that might be live-streamed? Was I already too late? I closed my eyes. When I opened them, I pictured the camera's red LED lights, a distant war room flicker. I thought of our vows. I thought of my mom's voice reminding me never to burn bridges. But something inside me was burning. Anger. Loss. Fear. I touched the recorder softly. Okay, I whispered. Let's see how deep this goes. The next day, I went to work like nothing had changed. I taught my morning classes, graded essays, smiled politely in the faculty lounge. No one could tell that my entire inner world was rotting under my skin. Back home, she was already asleep on the couch. Still in her work clothes, wine glass half full, Netflix humming on mute. I stared at her, wondering how someone could lie so beautifully in their sleep. I waited until 2 a.m. before I made my move. I had memorized the shape of her unlock pattern months ago, diagonal right, up, circle back. She changed it recently. That told me everything. I didn't give up. She used a passcode on her encrypted chat app. I tried birthdays. Our anniversary. Her favorite number. Nothing worked. Then I noticed something on her bedside table, her journal, leather-bound. She never let me read it. Not once. But she often quoted lines from it. A writer has the luxury of hiding in plain sight, she told me once. I thought it was romantic. Now I realized it was a warning. I flipped through pages. Scribbled poetry, shopping lists, fragments of thoughts. Then I found one page with underlines and small arrows. And is a mirror, not a man. And another. Digits reverse what the face reveals. It took me 2 hours. Then it clicked. Her old passcode, reversed. I entered it. The app opened. The messages weren't just romantic, they were tactical. GPS pin drops. Mention of the device. Notes about surveillance, counter-surveillance. Sentences like, he suspects. Stage B may need acceleration. I scrolled further. One name popped up over and over. David from 12B. A neighbor. The quiet guy who always wore headphones and waved politely. I checked my own cameras. My heart dropped. David had been at our door 3 times this week. I never saw it. There were also audio files. I played one. Her voice. He's looking through my journal. I think he's close. If he breaks the pattern, we shift cities. M says we're almost clear. I dropped the phone. My throat burned. This wasn't cheating. This was a goddamn operation. The next morning, I didn't go to work. I sat in my car, engine off, staring at David's door. Apartment 12B. Beige dull, like every other unit in our row. But now it radiated menace. I couldn't explain it, just standing there felt like pressing my hand against a low-voltage current. Around 10 a.m., the door creaked open. David stepped out. Same hoodie, same noise-canceling headphones. He saw me. Paused. I got out. He pulled one earbud down. Hey, neighbor. His voice was flat. Casual. Nothing behind the eyes. Got a second? I asked. He looked me up and down. Then smiled faintly. Sure. We sat on the concrete steps. I tried to sound normal. My wife mentioned you've talked a few times. Something about helping her with tech? He nodded. Yeah. She asked about setting up secure cloud backups. Said her work files were sensitive. I waited. Nothing else came. So I went further. You've been over a few times. I've seen it on the cameras. His expression didn't change. She was nervous about someone hacking her home network. I said I'd take a look. That's all. I watched him. His face was too still. Like it had been practiced. Then he added something that made my skin crawl. She's good at hiding things. But not from everyone. I stared. What does that mean? He stood up slowly. Just saying, if you're looking for answers, don't just watch her. Watch yourself. Then he walked off. I went back inside, heart racing. Checked my cameras. Nothing new. But I couldn't stop thinking about what he said. That night, I did something reckless. I opened her laptop and logged in with the password I cracked earlier. There was a folder labeled Work Shadow. Inside, dozens of documents. One labeled Primary Subject P. Another Phase Tracking, Behavior Profile, Active, Destabilized. Photos. Screenshots. Audio clips. Of me. She was tracking me. I didn't sleep. I sat at the kitchen table all night, lit by the blue glow of her laptop, reading everything she'd collected on me. The file labeled Primary Subject P read like a psychological autopsy. Subject exhibits periods of isolation, deteriorating self-trust. Emotional triggers successfully applied, jealousy, surveillance exposure, digital paranoia. Objective, monitor response to sustained gaslighting plus domestic ambiguity. It was me. My schedule. My fears. My breakdown 2 years ago, catalogued clinically like a case study. My marriage wasn't just falling apart, it had been designed to collapse. There were surveillance images of me in our home, from angles I never installed cameras at. Voice memos I never recorded. Notes on my movements, down to how often I opened the fridge. This wasn't just spying. It was conditioning. An ongoing experiment. I shut the laptop, hands trembling, breath shallow. Who the hell was she? That morning, I confronted her without saying a word. I watched her pour coffee. Smile. Asked me if I was okay. I nodded. Told her I loved her. Kissed her cheek. But I was already planning how to disappear. I called out sick from work. I went through old contacts, people I hadn't spoken to in years. Someone who owed me favors. A woman I helped once when she was being stalked. She worked in digital privacy now. I asked for help. She agreed to meet the next morning. That night, I pretended to sleep. At 3:17 a.m., I heard her whispering in the hallway. I turned on the baby monitor. Yeah, the one we bought during the maybe baby phase still plugged in. She was speaking to someone through her earpiece. He's spiraling. We may need to end phase 2 early. No, he hasn't confronted. Still tracking passively. He's close to collapse. My vision blurred. Collapse? Was that the goal? I watched her walk past my door. She paused. Listened. Then she moved on. I waited 20 minutes. Then I packed a bag. Took my old car. Drove through 3 counties before I finally stopped. Checked into a motel under a fake name. And started building a firewall around what was left of my life. I checked into a roadside motel an hour outside the city. Cash only, curtains sealed, camera covered. I barely slept, too wired with fear and fury. Every shadow felt like a threat. Every vibration in my pocket made my skin crawl. The next morning, I met Kara. She looked older than I remembered, more serious now, but her eyes were still razor sharp. I saw your email, she said. The metadata's insane. You weren't just spied on. You were profiled. I handed her the hard drive with the files I copied. She plugged it into her laptop, scanned through folders, code fragments, and remote access logs. Jesus, she muttered. This isn't amateur work. This is state level. Or private sector espionage. Black budget type. What does that mean? It means she's not just some obsessed spouse, Kara said. She's part of something bigger. She pulled up an IP map, zoomed into one connection ID that linked to an internal drive labeled P Origins. Where did you find this? She asked. Hidden in a cloud folder under a fake document name. She tapped on it. Inside were archived files dated 5 years before I met my wife. Surveillance Report 047B. Subject identified during university incident, see, archives/incident Maple Hall. Potential candidate, high reactivity, adaptive isolation, strong memory recall. Reassigned to Field Observation Unit 3, codename, Violet. I stared at the document. My name was on the top. Underlined. What is this? I asked. Kara didn't answer. She just kept scrolling. Photos of me in college, at a protest, outside my old apartment. All candid. All dated. All taken before I ever laid eyes on the woman who became my wife. She was assigned to you, Kara whispered. This wasn't love. It was a long-term operation. My throat closed. I remembered the way we met, how random it felt. How perfect the timing had been. I thought it was fate. Now I knew it was placement. I stood up. Walked to the window. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. She had been watching me for a decade. I drove back to my childhood neighborhood. Took the old highway, passed by shuttered gas stations and fading billboards. The kind of places memory sticks to like dust. My parents had died in a car crash 10 years ago. I hadn't visited our old house since. It was rented now, strangers lived there. But just 2 blocks down was someone I hadn't forgotten, Mr. Loden, our neighbor. Retired military. Quiet. The man who always waved, always watched. I knocked on his door, not knowing what I was looking for, just knowing I had to ask. He opened the door, same steel gray eyes, same unreadable expression. Didn't think I'd see you again, he said. No surprise in his voice. Just resignation. I stepped in. He poured tea without asking. Sat across from me like we'd planned this meeting months ago. I need to ask you something, I said. And I need you to be honest. He nodded slowly. I told him everything. About my wife. The files. The photos. The fact that I was being followed before I ever met her. He listened. Didn't blink. then got up and disappeared into a back room. When he returned, he was holding a metal file box. Scratched. Locked. Heavy. "I kept this after your dad passed," he said. "He never wanted you to know." He handed me the key. Inside were folders labeled with dates and codes. Photos. Newspaper clippings. Military orders. Surveillance reports. My father, an analyst, contracted post-retirement for something called Behavioral Engineering Task Force. There was a file dated 3 months before his death. It was marked Top-Line Inquiry, Subject P, Field Phase Proposal. My name was in the footer. I looked up at Mr. Loden. "Did he know?" I asked. He nodded. "He fought it. Tried to pull you out of the system. That's why they cut contact." I leaned back, heart slamming in my chest. None of this started with my wife. It started with my father. I stayed at a roadside diner that night, parked under a flickering neon sign that buzzed like a dying wasp. The file box from Loden sat in the back seat. I couldn't bring myself to open it again. I hadn't turned on my phone in 2 days. When I finally did, there were 17 missed calls. All from her. And 1 voicemail. I played it. Her voice wasn't frantic. It was calm. Controlled. The voice of someone who had already accepted the outcome. "I assume you know by now. Everything. Or close enough. I won't apologize. That would be dishonest. And I know how much you hate dishonesty." She exhaled. "They chose you because you were stable. Brilliant. Obsessive. You had the kind of mind that wouldn't let go once it bit down. But they underestimated what that would do when pointed inwards." She paused. "You want the truth? I volunteered for your case. I read your files. Your essays. Your dreams. I watched you grieve your parents. And I fell in love with the person on the page. The problem is, we were never meant to meet in real life." There was a crack in her voice. "You weren't supposed to fall in love with me back. That part wasn't in the protocol. But you did." Silence. "And I broke protocol. I stayed too long. I stayed through the breakdown. Through the teaching job. Through your silence after your dad's death. I stayed, because it stopped being about the program. I stayed for you." Another pause. "But you don't believe that now. And I don't blame you." Click. End of message. I sat in the car for an hour. Just breathing. Not angry. Not sad. Just emptied. Because I believed her. And that's what hurt the most. I returned home at sunrise. The streets were quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that made you feel like the only person alive. I parked 2 blocks away. Walked to the house like it wasn't mine. Like I was trespassing on the ghost of a life. She was gone. Her things, her perfume, the humming laptop in the study, all gone. But she left one thing behind, the baby monitor. Still plugged in. Still live. I turned it on. The red LED blinked once. Then again. Then held steady. Recording. Or transmitting. I walked through the house slowly, touching the walls. Every photo felt like a lie. Every memory was contaminated. But I wasn't angry anymore. She had loved me, in her way. And I had loved her, before I understood what love meant through the lens of surveillance and obedience. On the kitchen table, a single envelope. Inside, a passport. Mine. And a note. "There are other programs. Other subjects. You'll be tempted to find them. But trust me, some truths aren't worth chasing." I stared at the words until they blurred. Then I looked at the camera in the ceiling corner. Red light. Steady. I raised my middle finger. Held it there. Let them record that. Then I walked outside. No bags. No plans. Just a man finally free. Or as free as you can be, when you've spent your entire life under someone else's microscope.